So Karen, thanks for joining us. In fact, you can start by saying, informing us what you're running for and why.
Thank you, Asha. My name is Karen Nyamu. I'm an advocate of the High Court. I'm practicing here in Nairobi, and I'm vying for women representative here in Nairobi. And the reason why I'm vying for women representative is because there is actually a gap in youth leadership, youth representation, sorry. People view women rep as a position just to fight for women. But the Constitution classifies the youth and people living with disabilities under this position, actually.
It's interesting you say that because the gentlemen were just saying that they don't understand why we have all these 47 positions specifically for women. Do you think they've done it justice for the last 5 years?
Well, there has been the teething issues of a new position. And as we know, money was disbursed from the government quite late in the day, in the term. So there's a lot of criticism and a lot of misunderstanding over the position. But I think with the new crop of aspirants, like for example, I'm a lawyer, I understand quite well what it entails to be, my role as a woman rep. And so I think the next crop of women rep will represent.
Fair enough. Can we speak about political parties? What parties are we vying on?
I am a member of Ukoli Party.
What is that?
It's a new party by young people who want better, who want to change the way this country is run. Because normally when you go look at NASA or you look at Jubilee, there's no ideology. It's actually individuals. So wherever Raila moves, that's where the power moves to. Wherever Uhuru moves, that's where the power moves to. But you actually want to build a long-term party which has ideology and that cares about this country and that has issues. And if you look at our party symbol, actually is a sugar cane. Ukoli ni mtamu. It's about the green of the land that our forefathers fought for, and our mothers as well. And we need to enjoy the fruit of our labor and the fruits of our country.
Do you buy Boniface's story?
Personally,
it's not a story. It's a position.
Okay, fine.
Personally, I doubt that Boniface has ever seen a sugar cane growing from when it is put in the ground until up. But you said you were born and raised in Sare.
Yeah.
This is in Shamba Lamau.
I didn't say born in Sare. Actually, I was born in Taveta.
Right.
So here's the point of departure. I am running on an ODM ticket. And the narrative that he's spreading is a narrative that we've had before, that there's no ideology in this party and that there is only cult following in this party. And the truth of the matter is that ODM is a social democratic party. And if you look at the manifesto and the constitution of ODM, it lays out the ideology of a party, that we are a party that would like to see equity in opportunity, in resources, in everything that is for the enjoyment of the people of Kenya in this country. Number two, we're the party of devolution. We would like to see a strengthened devolution. We are the party of women and youth. We would like for women and youth to have their place at the table, so that instead of Boniface Mwangi running away from ODM, he should be able to fight within ODM as a young person.
So is it ODM? Is it called? Is it NASA?
It's an example.
I don't know. I need to understand.
ODM.
I think his question is this. Why not go into an existing party
Absolutely.
and probably strengthen the processes from inside?
No, but which one would I join? So I would like to know.
That's a question that you should ask
ODM,
yourself.
CORD or NASA? Because there are like 3 parties in one.
This is a very simple confusion to clear. Yes. ODM is a party, CORD is a coalition, NASA is a coalition. So you can join a political party within the coalition. It is your choice. So here is the problem, Asha. We have people who believe that for them to be able to create a position or a niche for themselves, they have to do it outside the existing structures. What that tells me is that you do not have what it takes to be able to compete with the old people on a table.
But do you really?
Absolutely.
There's also a perception that the young people in ODM specifically do not have an equal seat at the table.
But this is what I'm telling you. Take Edwin Sifuna as an example. Take myself as an example, because I do sit on the table in ODM, not the table reserved for youth.
Okay.
Who do you know in ODM? That also should be a question, because we know from history of ODM, what Boniface says actually makes more sense in ODM than it is in Jubilee. Because in Jubilee, we are being recognized as new aspirants, as a youth. We are getting our space and our voice is being heard. On the contrary, for ODM, it's hand-picked aspirants.
So who had...
Case in point in Kibera. We had, when they were submitting the MP slots, when they were submitting their documents, we had some people who are considered threats for that position missing and allocated wards as opposed to the constituents. And this is because then people came to learn later that there is this, it's reserved for
You see, what I find
member.
surprising...
Let me say something before.
Let me just respond.
Let's hear from
Let me
Boniface
respond to
first.
that.
Let me
Let's hear
respond to
from...
why Ukweli Party. So, none of us have been accused of corruption or thuggery
Yet.
or goons.
Who are you? None of who? We only know you, Bonnie.
Aspirants. So our party, we are going to vote people according to Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Right.
So we want to build a clean party that would outlast like Raila Odinga, the Mudavadi, the Uhuru, the Ruto. A party that doesn't belong to Boniface or me, that it belongs to the people. And that's what we're saying, Ukweli, Nguvu kwa Mwananchi, part of the people. So our party is not about individuals.
Can we hear from Wachira what party he runs on?
Wachira,
Let's hear
I was responding to you.
No, we're coming back to you.
But without Raila Odinga, there's no ODM
Bonnie,
or Kondo Nasa. And without
give
Uhuru,
Wachira.
there's no Jubilee.
We're coming back to
That's
that.
the beauty of SDP. We do not have anybody who owns the party.
Very good.
The party was registered in 1992 during the multi-party, time, and we were the first party actually to front a serious female candidate for presidency. That was Charity Ngilu. In 2002, SDP fronted James Orengo. By then, he was a well-known activist, serious human rights lawyer, for presidency. The party has produced the likes of intellectuals like Anyang' Nyong'o. They've all come and left, but they've left the party there. Personally, I joined SDP in the Youth League, Young Socialist League, and I became the chair of the Youth League. I rose up, and now I'm the Secretary General of the party. If something happens, which it won't, but if something happened and I left, SDP will have somebody else coming in, because ours is not a party where we just recruit people.
Yeah.
The Chinese Communist Party was registered in 1918.
How long has it been in
It
power?
took power in 1950. The South African Communist Party was registered in 1924. It took power in 1994. Even if we as SDP do not capture power in the next 10 years, I am sure that we are building people who will capture power whenever the time comes.
So we know that Wachira ascribes to socialism as the ideology.
Of course, about power.
As social
let me
democratic. But
respond
what's
to-
yours,
Politics to get
Boniface?
power.
What's yours,
Asha,
Boniface?
I have to
Democratic
respond
Party,
to
yeah?
some of the issues that have been
Yours as
raised,
well?
The
please.
Social Democratic Party.
Yeah, this is first thing. You have to see the difference between Wachira and Boniface and my learned colleague here. That he himself has told us that he started as a youth league member in SDP. At that particular point, he has also told us that there were heavy people in there. But he has stuck through the party, and the party has recognized him. Number one, the one thing that young people forget is that you're not going to stand somewhere and sell your youth. There's 60% of the population of this country is a youth, so it could be anyone. You have to have the substance, you have to have what it takes for you to be able to convince people that you actually deserve a space on that table. Now, they say at the ODM handpicked people. Who handpicked Edwin Sifuna? I am seated here right now, and yet people who are outside ODM want to pretend like they know about ODM more than me. Yes. And this is what I want to tell you. ODM as a party has structures that would be able to support you if you present yourself as somebody who is able and capable and have what it takes to be able to...
I know KJ,
now,
KJ left
here's
the party
the
because
problem.
of the same shenanigans.
No, he left the party because the constituency in which he was running does not support ODM.
Because
And
that's
the
like
truth.
twice.
But there's also another
by-
perception that
Yes.
to join especially the bigger parties, you must have the so-called godfather. Do you have one in
There is
Jubilee?
no godfather.
Do you have a godfather, godmother
To
in
join a
Jubilee?
party,
I don't have a
Or
godfather.
to at least, stand
join?
chances to
Have
run for a
passion.
big seat like the
So
Nairobi
if you lose
Women's
the
Rep?
nomination, are you going to defect?
No, I won't defect because as much as this is a personal bid, I have a larger vision
Which
for the
is?
people of Nairobi,
Will you defect?
personally,
Which
I don't
is?
see any other party
which
that I
is
can
to
join.
uplift the living standards.
Can we listen to her?
Which is to uplift the living standards of the youth. The youth have really been neglected in decision making, and also there are some existing laws which bar the youth from participating in various
So you're running for women's rep, but you're specifically targeting issues of
the youth.
Of the youth.
Yeah, because issues of women.
I've actually
to be
not
honest,
heard anything about the women.
Issues of women, they're already there. Women, there are so many papers existing that have been written over and over about the women. There's print, there's
So why not just run for MP?
goodwill. Because when I run for MP, I'll be dealing with a constituency, and I'm thinking about Nairobi youth as a whole.
All right.
The problem of unemployment in a place like Kandui constituency, you find, for instance, at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday like today, you are called and somebody tells you, oh, I'm seated somewhere in Abusa, please, Mheshimiwa, send me 200 shillings, one gorogoro. What does that tell you? That person has nothing to do when they wake up in the morning other than to think about going to a Busa joint. And that's how they end up with drunken disorderly charges and causing disturbance, and they end up in jail.
That.
We want, first of all, to be able to educate these people to take advantage of money that is available for them for their enterprises, like the Youth Fund and the Wezo Fund. Number two, identify projects that are viable in Kandui constituency. So, for instance, don't just take a water pump, a pressure car wash machine and give somebody, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a stretch of 1 kilometer. There are other things that we can do. For instance, they are talking about greenhouses.
Here's one question that's really ringing in my mind, especially for the three of you. You're not running for youth MP. You're running for the position of MP.
Yes.
But all your issues so far have been focused towards young people.
But I started by telling you that 70%
but what
of
about
the population
what about the 30%?
If you sort out 70% of the population, you have sorted out the problem.
So
that is how simple it is.
If my mother, who is 60 years old, is living in poverty, and I'm also living in poverty, there's a high likelihood that we'll both die in poverty.
Yes.
But if she's living in poverty and I have some income-generating activity, then I'll definitely assist her and she will come out of the poverty. That is why we must target the areas where we want to look at. But there's a question that we must ask, which is an ideological question. Whose role is it to provide employment, for instance? The way the current regime and the current politicians think is that it is the role of private market. So Bonigo starts a company, employs people, and that is how we will create employment. But for us, that's the secondary area of creating employment. The principal employer should be the state. And that can only be done by effecting policies and laws that pressure the state to do this. Right?
Okay, so let me ask you.
I disagree because we live in
what we call informal sector in Kenya. Like I'm an electrician, then I'm doing some electrical jobs. In Europe, it's called unemployment.
Let me tell you the truth, because we live in a capitalistic world. The role of government is to provide an enabling environment for business.
That is why all these people, the fact that they agree on that point, that the government, you all belong to, you should all form one party, which is called Capitalist Party of Kenya. Because they thought that the role of the government is to create a conducive environment so that business, private individuals can come and create employment. That is a very neoliberal way of thinking, and it's very dangerous.
Let me tell you, if this country was safe and secure, and there's minimal corruption, there's reliable electricity, there's reliable water, you'll have manufacturing industries.
Absolutely.
From where? People will come and set up business, but the cost of doing business in this country is very, very high.
Okay, so Bonnie, supposing you're elected, you're now a member of parliament. So what's the first thing you do to actually change those key issues that you mentioned?
So number one, I want to actually set up an employment bureau in Starehe, where all Starehe people come and train in skills and know what their skills are and where they lack and where they can be placed. Employment bureau. One of the things about Starehe is actually the same thing, alcoholism and layabouts. I want to set up social centers. When I was growing up, you could go and play boxing in a social center like Mudurwa or Pumwani. They're no longer there. I want to set up a sports academy as well, so that the money for CDF actually, we have bursaries, you have libraries, you have an employment center, and you have social amenities. First, you remove them from the vices. Then now, we talk with the national government and how do you create employment. If you can stop the corruption and stop the graft, employment is going to come automatically. Problem is, I can't set up a business without factoring corruption.
Okay, and I'm hearing all of you.
Yes.
I feel like each one of you is really romanticizing the problems and the solutions. When you talk about, I'll talk to the government to make sure this happens. Let me give you an example.
Yes.
The opposition, the current opposition, has had a really tough time in parliament because of the so-called tyranny of numbers. So how are you going to really make a difference as a lone wolf?
The tyranny of numbers is because those people are not tyranny of numbers. They actually agree on ideas. Because when it comes to pay rise, like the one they just got, CORD and and Jubilee actually agreed. When it comes to things that are very progressive, that are going to help this country, it's very likely it's going to change. Number one, come August, we're going to change this country. We'll have no president, we'll have no deputy president, we'll have no MP, no governor. We are going to elect people freshly. And here is where the electorate actually have a point, and they actually have a chance to bring about change. If you look at the president and he hasn't performed, you vote him out.
The three of you are speaking from an outsider's perspective, that you're criticizing the current government. You're running on a platform where
But is she in government?
She's not in government.
I don't have to be in
running
government to observe what the
for
government has
Jubilee.
achieved.
So what do you think? Do you agree with their views?
Well, they obviously have a point, but the current government inherited a situation that was very grave.
Oh,
and we have seen,
Kibaki was different.
Listen, they've not given heaven, but there are things that are seen in the public eye they have done. Like in the energy sector, they have actually brought down the cost of electricity. You will agree with me. They have tripled, or is it times 10, the number of connected homes in electricity.
I think that's
the road
debatable in
network has
terms of
improved.
the impact.
Can I say this? Actually, when you're talking about, so I live in Nairobi and there's water rationing. I can't even get adequate water in my house. Talking about electricity, the government actually approved for a coal plant in Lamu to benefit Centum. They're going to destroy a World Heritage Site to produce dirty energy. That's not clean energy. So these things of saying, oh, you're giving us electricity, and then you're giving someone electricity in a mad world house, and that person doesn't even have water in their house.
All right.
So what is key?
But let me say something here.
Yes.
When President Uhuru Kenyatta was campaigning, he said that we will create, was it 1 million jobs every year? And then after he won, even before he was sworn in, he made a statement that they've just made here, that the role of the government is to create an environment where these private investors will come and employ these 1 million people. Yet you are the one who is promising that you will employ 1 million people.
It was not directly.
No.
Okay, so now we can really go into like a really heated debate about what government.
But there's
has done
something that I
and
want to
what-
explain. That she is right.
Yes.
The electricity has been distributed to many other places. But what is the impact? You remove the tax, it becomes profit for the businessman. You reduce the cost of electricity, it becomes profit for the businessman. So those things do not transcend down to the people who they should benefit.
So Wachira,
that is why the state should be the principal driver
Okay, Wachira,
of
question.
the economy.
Brilliant question, and this is to you and yourself, because I feel like Bonnie and Edwin have tried to answer it. Number one priority area for your constituency?
Employment, that's what I've been talking about.
How different will it be?
For
How different will your bill be?
First of all, it will ensure
I don't
that
think a bill can create employment, but maybe because we have tried having government-run companies, KMTC.
Yeah.
We have Kenya Airways, which government is a shareholder. It's going down, no, it's bailing out. We have sugar factories that actually collapsed. I think even being a socialist party actually, if the government actually does its work, that the country is safe, that you can afford electricity, there's water on the tap, there's infrastructure, then business becomes, and there's devolution actually. And with devolution, you can actually have 47 county governments creating employment in 47 counties.
Okay, Karen,
But let me tell you something. No, he has raised something very important that I should respond
we'll come
to.
back.
Today, we might say that even primary schools, the ones that are public, are not good. But when you come to secondary school, everybody wants to take their children to Starehe, to Alliance, to Mangu, which are public. So it is a question of management. KQ, it is largely
So managing
private-owned in Kenya. But Ethiopian Airlines is fully government-owned, state-owned, yet it is making profit year in, year out.
Yeah.
So it is a question of management.
So
and
empowering state corporations is your point. Let's go to Karen. Karen, what is the number one priority area that you'll address? What's the first thing you'll do when you get elected?
Currently, there exist laws that restrict people by virtue of their age to do certain things. For example, even voting, you have to be 18. Well, there are people who can participate in voting from 16, marriage, and many other things that restrict the youth on the basis of their age. So we have to amend existing laws to favor youth and women, and also come up with...
So favoring women, let's talk about the women specifically. We already have such laws, so I'm really looking for a specificity.
Plenty for women, but youth have been neglected. So my main area of focus.
I mean, like, for example, you know, there's a quota for young people in tendering, you know, giving a 30% to young
on
people,
paper.
women. It's on
Yeah.
paper. So what exactly will you do?
It exists on
That's what
paper.
we're trying to
The
understand.
missing link is the information, because there are so many people who think that these things are available.
But do we need a bill for
opportunities-
the information? I think...
No,
it's
you
just a
asked that specific question. That's what I'm answering. But I'm talking about, when I talk about a bill, I'm talking about like, for example, you need to have experience to get jobs after school. We need to address that specifically in law, that you don't need to have experience, for example, to get jobs.
Okay,
My first bill
okay.
in Parliament, let
Yes.
me say this. My first bill in Parliament is pay cut. Number one, pay cut
Of MPs.
of members of Parliament. Number two, I want us to remove the
My
car
friend,
grants.
you will lose that one.
Will I lose?
immediately.
Are you running to make money?
No, but it might be just the four of us who...
No,
but-
what about you? They said they're going to take a pay cut. What
Yeah,
about you?
listen,
So,
I would
Bonnie,
take a
let
pay
me
cut.
ask
The
you-
four of us would take...
it's a yes or no question.
Okay, yes, I don't have a
Very,
problem with that.
very good. So she'll take a pay cut. So there are four of us.
Bonnie,
So
let me ask you,
let me
because
finish.
you're really obsessed with the issue
no,
of
let
pay
me tell you, my
cuts,
problem is-
even in your activism
I'm
life.
saying the-
So once, okay, let's say in a...
Let me give
in
you.
a-
Let me finish. I said number one is pay cut.
Right.
Number two, you need to stop those car grants. That's theft. Don't give someone a car grant. You have a salary, go and buy your own car.
Okay.
Sitting allowances. You shouldn't be paid for sitting and you have a salary.
Right.
That's illegal. Number four, public health. I want no member of parliament should actually get a private medical cover. If you want a private medical cover, buy your own. But being given a medical cover by the government, that should be legal, so that every single person, from the president to the MC, should go to public hospitals. That's the bill number one.
But let me ask you, Bonnie,
Okay, can
let
I
me...
speak about my bills?
Just a minute.
That is
before
now,
you
that's
let,
now.
let me ask you
Let's do
something,
the
Bonnie.
pay cut.
Okay, fair enough. Let
So
me
let's
ask
talk
you
about
about
Sarah.
that. No, let me ask you about that specific bill that you're
Yes.
talking about. This is 349 members of parliament,
Yes.
you know, plus Speaker 350.
Yes.
We're in a country of 40 million plus Kenyans.
Yes.
So you're looking at such a small constituency. What about the bigger picture of Kenyans?
So I'm going to look.
I mean, once we've reduced the
Money
salaries...
saved. You see, let me tell you, the fish rots from the head. If you're able to actually get elected officials to take a pay cut, you didn't have been the doctor strike and lectures are going to because there will be harmonization of salaries. That's where we start. So that means there's more money for public health, there's more money for education, there's more money for security, there's more money for infrastructure, because the biggest budget in the country actually goes to salaries and allowances.
For me,
you agree with
the
that?
people of Kandu constituency, the biggest problem actually is poverty. And we have agreed that one of the ways in which we can lift ourselves, in fact, the only guaranteed way to lift ourselves out of poverty is actually through education. Now, the biggest difficulty is at the secondary education level. And I remember in 2002 when the NAC coalition was campaigning and when it came to power, we had agreed that we would like to see in this country free basic education from primary school to high school. If we can sort out the issue of free secondary education, I'm telling you, life in Kandu constituency is going to change. Number two, if you look at the problem of secondary education and the poverty levels that are there, one of the things that we've been discussing with our residents and agreeing upon is that, for instance, in utilization of CDF, is it possible for us to put a freeze on construction of classrooms, for instance, and focus more on availing this money for bursaries? Because they call it a school because there are people in that school who are doing what? Receiving education. So it is not... it is totally pointless for you to build these beautiful cathedrals in the name of classrooms and there are no students in there. I started my education in a school called Kitinda Primary. We used to sit under a tree, but we were receiving education. So it is better for our children to be in school receiving education than to have those. And then when you come after university,
Yes.
because the problem of poverty still persists, we would like to see a shift in the allocation of resources to the Higher Education Loans Board.
Let's take a breather so we can come back and discuss